welcome to The Deep Dive, your shortcut to understanding the complex forces shaping our world. Today, we're looking at something a bit different. Not the usual market reports, but a memoir. It's called Silicon Gold, Chip Design Startup Memoir by Michael Ho.
Right, and this isn't just, a company history. It's incredibly detailed, like a real-world case study. It covers a whole decade, leading up to NPKB's big IPO on NASDAQ.
Okay, so what's our mission for today's deep dive then?
Well, today is kind of the prequel. Before we jump into the whole story, we really need the context. Who was the author, Michael Ho? What exactly was NPKB's tech advantage? And crucially, who were these four founders? Because their personalities, well, they were a huge part of the story.
Makes sense. Get the foundations right before building the house.
Exactly. This background is essential for the 6-part series we're planning, where we'll really unpack the book's 37 chapters.
All right, so let's start with the author, Michael Ho. To understand the company, we need to understand him. His background sounds almost tailor-made for this. Born in rural Taiwan.
Yeah, Miaoli County. And it's fascinating, he actually credits his upbringing for giving him, as he puts it, business blood and engineering blood at the same time.
How so?
Well, his father was Hakka, an engineer, a construction chief. His mother was Minan, and she ran the biggest general store in their town, Zhaokyu, for like 20 years. Michael Ho basically grew up getting this constant on-site education in business and logistics.
20 years of watching a business run day in, day out. Wow.
It really set him apart. So he graduates from National Chiao Tung University, NCTU, back in 1971.
Okay, and that was right in the middle of the big Taiwanese brain drain, wasn't it?
Oh.
Weren't most top engineers heading straight for the U.S. then?
Almost all of them, yeah. But he didn't. He made the deliberate choice to stay, to build his career right there in Taiwan's growing tech sector.
That's definitely going against the grain for that time.
Very much so. And his career took off pretty quickly. By the time he was 27, around 1978, he'd already earned what he called his first bucket of gold.
Okay, doing what? Something complex.
Actually, something very practical, very engineering-focused. He designed a pipeline flow meter using an electronic calculator. Simple idea, maybe, but effective. It made him enough for his first apartment in suburban Taipei.
So, proving his engineering chops early on, but what about the business side?
That came through too. By age 36, he got a big lesson in finance. He sold a 12% stake in a factory automation company he was involved with.
Ah, the great return force of tech investment, as he called it.
That's the one. And the payout. It bought him his first high-end apartment in Taipei. So he's moving up in the world, both technically and financially.
But it wasn't all smooth sailing up the corporate ladder, right?
Yeah.
I read he hit a wall at Acer.
He did. By 1990, he was a VP at Acer, which was Taiwan's biggest local computer company then. A huge deal. But he resigned.
Why leave such a big role?
His own assessment was pretty blunt. He said he had a low political IQ. He figured his talents were much better suited to building high-value businesses like chip design rather than, fighting internal corporate battles.
Interesting self-awareness. But leaving a giant like Acer, that jump to entrepreneurship, couldn't have been easy.
Oh, it wasn't. The memoir is quite honest about this. He had a rough patch right after leaving. A couple of ventures failed. A local chip firm went under. A U.S. software company he was involved with dissolved in 92.
So failure was part of the journey.
Definitely. He had to kind of regroup.
Yeah.
By 1993, he landed a VP role at Cadence.
Cadence. Wasn't that the biggest name in electronic design software back then?
It absolutely was. The world leader in EJ software. And that position, well, it set him up perfectly for the next move. The very next year, 1994, he's 45. And he joins this new chip design startup in San Jose, NPKB, as one of the four founders.
And that was the one, NPKB.
That was the one. 5 years later, in 1999, they pull off a successful IPO on NASDAQ. The company eventually hit a valuation around, $1.9 billion?
Incredible success story. But why wait 10 years to write the book? What finally pushed him?
It came back to his university, NCTU. In 2004, their EMBA program invited him back to teach. He used the NPKB story as a real-world case study.
And the students liked it.
They loved it. Apparently, they were so engaged, they basically begged him to turn his notes and lessons into a proper book, maybe even like a novel. That enthusiasm, that grassroots push, finally got him to sit down and write the memoir over the next decade. He realized the story, the human element, the lessons learned. They were just too valuable not to share.
Okay, let's pivot to the tech. NPKB, mid-90s chip world. Super competitive. You needed a real edge. What was their alarming competitiveness, as the book calls it?
So their niche was data modem signal processing technology, highly specialized stuff.
Right.
And their core strategy, their big weapon, was cost. They figured out how to make their chips for about 1/3 the cost of their competitors.
1/3. How is that even possible? That's not just shaving costs. That's disruptive.
It really was. And they did it with a really clever, counterintuitive move for the time. See, back then, modems needed lots of dedicated, expensive hardware components. Things called the data pump, the controller, memory chips, the UART.
Okay, specialized silicon just for the modem.
Exactly. And that custom silicon drove up the cost like crazy. The bill of materials, the BOM cost, was high.
So NPKB found a way around that.
They did. They developed really advanced software. And this software essentially took over the jobs of all that expensive, dedicated hardware.
How? Where did the processing happen?
They leveraged the PC itself. They used the main processor, the Intel 486, or the newer Pentium chips that people already had in their computers. All the heavy lifting for signal processing, control, everything. It moved off MPKB's custom chip and onto the PC's CPU.
Ah, so they made their hardware super simple, super minimal, because the software was doing all the hard work on the customer's existing machine.
Precisely. It slashed their material costs.
Yeah.
Pure genius, really. Shifting the complexity.
That's a fantastic technical innovation.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the founders. A great product isn't enough if the team implodes. And Michael Hawes' description sounds potentially explosive. What was it? 3 engineers with a secret martial arts manual mindset, plus him, the one experienced businessman.
Yeah, that description tells you a lot, doesn't it? And the friction was apparently there from day one. The book makes it crystal clear. These 3 incredibly smart technical guys were just fundamentally different from each other, and their engineering culture clashed hard with Michael Hawes' business background.
Okay, let's meet the team. Who are the engineers? Start with the tech lead, Lucas.
Right. Lucas Zhang Haoyu. He's described as the sharpshooter, the technical soul of the company. He was the expert in digital signal processing, super smart, maybe a bit arrogant because of it, and he definitely liked to control things through his technical knowledge. But here's the kicker. Lucas specifically said he did not want to be the captain, the leader.
Okay, so a leadership vacuum right away. Who stepped in? Kyler.
Kyler Zhang Yicheng. He was the designated captain. Very persistent, tons of drive, really wanted to lead, but he didn't have much management experience. And apparently, he really disliked talking, verbal communication. Not ideal for a startup leader, right?
Definitely not ideal. What was his philosophy?
Summed up as, the world is made, not spoken. Very action-oriented, maybe not so much discussion-oriented.
Okay, and the third engineer?
That was Alex Liang Gongjian. They called him the housekeeper. He handled the engineering logistics, day-to-day stuff. Outwardly, he was apparently the most approachable, good English speaker, but internally, super stubborn. Once Alex decided on an engineering approach, good luck trying to change his mind.
Wow. So you've got the reluctant genius, the non-communicative captain, and the stubborn logistician. And then there's Michael Ho.
Right. Michael Zhao Qiuren, the author, his role was the entrepreneurial expert. He brought the strategy, the business sense, the operational flexibility, but his whole way of thinking, his business culture, just slammed against the mindset of the 3 engineers.
So how did decisions get made?
Often, it seems, by a 3-to-1 vote against him. He talks about frequently being the minority, frustrated, unable to push through his business perspectives against the united engineering front.
It's amazing they achieved anything, let alone a multi-billion-dollar IPO, with that kind of internal dynamic.
That's the core tension of the book, this massive contrast between the internal chaos, the personality clashes, the power struggles, the cultural differences, and the huge external success.
It really makes you wonder how much conflict a company can take. Which leads us nicely to the lessons Michael Ho wanted people to take away. You said there were 11 specific objectives.
Yeah, and this is where it goes beyond just telling a story. He wanted this to be like a practical manual for entrepreneurs. He covers the whole life cycle from the initial idea and product positioning through fundraising, right up to M&A.
But he also focuses on things that, maybe get glossed over in other startup books, like due diligence and internal politics.
Exactly, because those are the hidden icebergs that sink companies. He really drills down on the need for real due diligence, not just surface-level checks, but deep dives into partners, markets. And he spends a lot of time on organizational politics. He even talks about destructive and constructive politics, acknowledging that managing that human friction is maybe the founder's hardest job.
That's refreshingly honest. What about getting the business off the ground? Any specific focus there?
Oh, yeah. A big one is landing that crucial first order from scratch, getting that first major customer to take a chance on you. He shows just how critical and how difficult that initial validation phase is.
The 0 to 1 problem.
Right. And beyond that, he shares insights on international marketing, dealing with complex IP, intellectual property transactions. Basically, building a company strong enough to survive long term, even with, constant internal battles among the founders. It's like winning a war while fighting a civil war at the same time.
What a picture. So we've got these 4 incredibly bright but deeply clashing individuals, 3 tech gurus, 1 business strategist trying to survive in the cutthroat chip design world, the fact they pulled off a NASDAQ IPO amidst all that. That's the puzzle we're going to piece together.
It really is. And that paradox is exactly what we'll explore in this series. We're taking Michael Host's 37 chapters and breaking them down across 6 key stages of NPKB's journey.
6 stages.
Yeah, we're calling them planning, establishment, struggles, crisis, turning point, and finally, epiphany or growth.
Okay, a clear roadmap through the story. And where do we start next time?
We kick off with planning, covering the first 4 chapters of the book.
And what's in those first chapters?
It actually starts with a crisis. We'll get into the background of unemployment, specifically Lucas, the technical genius, getting his pink slip from Apple.
Ah, the catalyst.
Exactly. That event triggers this huge psychological shift for him, pushing him towards entrepreneurship. We'll look at how the team started to form amidst all that uncertainty and how they hammered out their initial goals for people and product. It really centers on Lucas's realization. Entrepreneurship is the only way to truly control my fate.
Sounds like a dramatic start. Can't wait to dive into the messy beginnings of NPKB. Join us next time as we explore the planning phase.